Hello, teacher. Hello, students. Welcome to today's lesson on Ethiopia's contribution to the peace and stability of the world. Previously, we discussed Ethiopia's history from an international perspective. We learned that Ethiopia is one of the world's few ancient civilizations. We also learned that, with the exception of a 5-year occupation by Italian forces between 1936 and 1941, Ethiopia has remained unconquered and independent. We learned that during the Italian occupation, Ethiopian patriots fought the Italian forces to maintain their freedom. In today's lesson, we will learn about how Ethiopia is a member of the League of Nations. We will discuss the fact that Ethiopia is one of the founding members of the United Nations, the Organization of African Unity, and African Union. We will also talk about what Ethiopia's efforts mean from a global perspective. I am ready to begin this lesson, so I hope that you are ready to learn. Ethiopia has made many important contributions to global peace and stability. Over the years, Ethiopia has consistently been among the first countries to join organizations that aim to improve relations within and among nations, and to secure equality and harmony among world citizens. Let us discuss some examples. The League of Nations, which was the first organization aimed at maintaining peace and cooperation in the world, was founded in 1920. It was created as a result of the Paris Peace Conference that put an end to the First World War. Ethiopia joined the organization in 1923, shortly after it was founded. During this time, most other African countries were under European colonial rule. Liberia and South Africa were the only other African nations that were members before Ethiopia. The League of Nations fell apart at the beginning of the Second World War. However, it was a precursor for the United Nations, which began in 1945 when the war came to an end. Ethiopia was one of the founding members of the United Nations. In fact, it was one of only a few African nations to join at that time. Students, can you think of any ways that Ethiopia has contributed to world peace and stability through its dedication to the United Nations?
Students, let's get ready. Begin. Time's up! Let's get back to our lesson.
Hello, students. I wonder what examples you thought of. Perhaps you mentioned that Ethiopia sent peacekeeping forces to South Korea in the early 1950s. They were sent in an effort to stop the war that began when North Korea invaded South Korea. In 1960, Ethiopian troops were sent to join a United Nations peacekeeping mission in the Congo, which is present-day Zaire, and then on another mission to Rwanda in 1994. You may have also said that in 2003, Ethiopia sent troops to Burundi. They were sent to help put an end to the civil war between the Hutus and the Tutsis that had been going on for over a decade. Let us continue our lesson by learning about a few ways in which Ethiopia has contributed to peace and stability within the continent of Africa. The African Union, which was formerly called the Organization of African Unity, was established in Addis Ababa in 1963. The purpose of this union is to create solidarity among African states. Emperor Haile Selassie I, as well as Guinea's President Sékou Touré, made great efforts to join together the leaders of 32 independent African countries at the inauguration of the OAU. Many famous leaders were in attendance, including Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana, Jomo Kenyatta of Kenya, and Abdul Nasser of Egypt. Over the years, numerous governments have joined the organization, and as of 1994, the African Union has 53 members. As of 2001, the AU has the right to intervene without consent in matters involving a member state. This right is invoked to restore peace and stability, and to prevent genocide, war crimes, and crimes against humanity. Students, why do you think it is so important for Ethiopia to take part in organizations such as the UN and the AU? How do Ethiopia's efforts affect its reputation on an international level?
Students, let's get ready. Begin. Time's up. Let's get back to our lesson.
Welcome back, students. I am very curious about how you answered these questions. Perhaps you said that it is important for Ethiopia to take part in the UN and the AU because these organizations do a lot of good work to restore peace and stability to many countries throughout the world. You may also have said that by working with these organizations, Ethiopians are supporting human rights and equality. By taking part in international aid missions, Ethiopia is building a positive reputation as a country that supports democracy and social stability. Were your answers similar? If so, you are correct. In today's lesson, we learned about the ways in which Ethiopia has contributed to the peace and stability of the world. We discussed several organizations that Ethiopia has taken part in, including the League of Nations, the United Nations, the Organization of African Unity, and the African Union. In our next lesson, we will discuss some of the more regional aid organizations that Ethiopia supports. This brings us to the end of our lesson for today. I hope that by hearing about all the positive contributions Ethiopia has made to the international community, you will feel proud and patriotic. Until next time, thank you, teacher. Thank you, students.